So hey, Giancarlo.
Hi.
You've had some interesting your past week or so.
Yes.
We were actually recording last week's episode when a bunch of drama was going down.
Yeah.
You want to talk about what the experience was like with you? And I guess we should say beforehand that just kind of what all happened, what transpired.
Well, basically, so what actually happened was that UGO bought one up.
Right.
And UGO did not want EGM. And Ziff Davis was not looking to continue publishing EGM any further. So EGM,
do you feel like the EGM thing, like that was, regardless of all this UGO stuff, like that was kind of a path that was happening, like anyways?
Yeah, I mean, if you're paying attention at all to any sort of media, what's going on in the media right now, magazines are having like a really, really hard time. And so, I knew even taking this job that going to EGM was a risk because, print media is having a really rough time getting ad support and things like that. So, but, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to work for one of the magazines that I grew up reading and that I was a huge fan of.
Right.
So, yeah, it sucks really bad that it got shut down, but at the same time, I don't regret ever taking the job because I got to do something that I always wanted to do.
Kill a magazine.
That's right.
No, you've done that before. This was your second tour of duty.
Wow.
And you also closed out Nintendo Power.
Yeah, well, no, Nintendo Power is still,
incarnation.
Nintendo Power is still around. They just got, moved over to Future Publishing. And in all honesty, the Nintendo Power thing was just, it was crazy because I'm thinking in the back of my head, okay, this magazine's been around for like 18 years. Nothing can go wrong.
It's an institution.
I'm like, the Wii's doing really well. Nintendo's in a really good spot. Like, why would they not want to do Nintendo Power anymore? And it turns out they didn't. So, but that's another decision I don't regret. Again, grew up reading Nintendo Power.
Yeah, you got to write for Nintendo.
That's pretty awesome.
And I got to do it when it was still at Nintendo, and that was a huge deal for me.
You were at the Nintendo campus.
Yes, I was.
I would love to spend the rest of this podcast just talking about weird things that were happening at Nintendo.
And it was totally, every day there was just completely surreal. Like, I feel like I just totally scammed somebody into working there because it was just like, oh my God, I am working at Nintendo.
Yeah.
What was Nestor like?
It's really tall.
That is like the crazy thing is like they have like this huge stack of old Nintendo Powers like in a corner in this massive binder, and just like you look through it and you see all the Howard and Nestor comics and things like that, and you're kind of like, oh wow, I'm kind of a part of this now. And then like 2 months later got laid off. But but I don't regret any of that. As short as it was, don't regret it in 1 second. So
there it is.
Yeah.
There's the inside dirt. Anything about just the process of what happened at Ziff that you want to or can talk about?
I can talk about sort of just the general stuff that went down. We came in that morning, and we all kind of knew, something was going to happen that week. Specifically for EGM, we knew something had to happen that week.
Yeah.
Because we had just finished the previous issue, which is currently unpublished. And we kind of were thinking, okay, this is going to be the last issue probably, just because the way magazines work, a lot of stuff is dictated by the amount of ads that are bought.
Right.
And since, in Q4, you usually have a huge increase of ads just because everybody wants their stuff in the magazine for Christmas time.
Right.
And so for this issue, we were kind of seeing like what the ad buys were. And if they were really low, we kind of knew then that, okay, maybe things aren't looking so hot. So that's why we kind of went into it knowing that, okay, maybe we should kind of wrap things up, do kind of like farewell message style stuff.
So that was already kind of in the works.
Kind of, yeah. So we knew something had to happen the week that we came back, whether or not subscribers had to be told like what was going on, if we were going to switch to like a revised publishing schedule, they needed to know. Subscribers needed to know because they weren't going to get their issue. And so it turns out something did happen that week. We got email basically calling a certain group of people. Well, actually, I should go back and say there were actually 2 meetings of people. One meeting was for the people who were going to stay at 1UP, and the other meeting was for people who were going to get axed.
Right.
And it was weird because we were looking at the names of the people in the meeting that we were in, and it's like, Simon Cox and James Milkey and things like that.
Like
we're
head dudes.
Yeah, like really important guys. And we're like, oh, maybe they're just, trying to lay out what happened with the deal and things like that. And it wasn't until that I kind of did like a drive-by of the conference room where the people were having the other meeting and saw the security guards, I was like, oh, crap. Like, business is going down right now. Like, they're going to shove us out of here and all this other stuff. Like, we're going to have to pack up and, like, right now, get out sort of thing. And
It's like start backing up your emails.
yeah, no, seriously. I mean, we were all...
Start shoving stuff down your pants.
Yeah, I mean, but it was up until, like, the very last minute that we were like, man, what is going on? You know, like, why would they lay off James Mielke and all this other stuff? And so we got called in the meeting and basically told, you know, okay, UGO bought one up, but they can't bring over all these people. Like, they just don't want to or can't afford it or whatever. And, you know, we were told that EGM is being discontinued and that those people who were directly working for One Up, that they wouldn't be transferring over. And so, yeah, so we're basically told that, you know, we'd have until the next day, till like 1 o'clock or something, to basically get our stuff together and, you know, leave the building. And, you know, we were all really sort of worried that, yeah, they were going to do the force out thing. But they actually did, to their credit, to UGO's credit, or whoever's credit it is, they didn't force us out. You know, people who had more stuff in their office were allowed to kind of, you know, pack things up and kind of go at their pace. But it was a really surreal day because I don't think a lot of people expected so many people from One Up to get laid off.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, everyone at EGM was kind of like, yeah, you know, whatever. We kind of saw it coming. But for that many people from One Up to be let go as well was really shocking. And honestly, out of the other layoffs that I've experienced in my career, and there have been many, this was one that hurt the most because there's so many talented people in that meeting and so many younger people who are just getting into this whole thing that got let go. Like, you know, Nick Sutner, Anthony Gallegos, those guys, they haven't been there for that long.
Didn't know where to go next. Didn't know how to handle the situation.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, you know, I've been doing this for a while, despite what the internet says. You know.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you started off with that Too Human review.
Yeah, that was
really made your
That was a
name.
good first,
storied 4-month career.
planting a flag in the sand, saying I'm writing about games.
You know, I went to the reviews editor and I was like, you know, I think a really good way for the internet to start hating me on my first thing is for me to review Too Human.
You nailed it. Well, that's that's the kind of foresight that you need to get ahead in this business.
Yeah, exactly. So. It's worked so well for me so far. But yeah, it was really surreal, and it hurts that so many of the younger guys got hit by this. And
yeah, we had all heard all of the UGO rumors, and it definitely seemed like a matter of time. But it seemed like the assumption was that okay, UGO is just going to take the whole site and transfer it over and just keep running it or whatever.
Yeah, like I think my assumption actually was either that they would do that or they would just get it and shut it the hell down.
Yeah, it was like
a all or nothing kind of thing, as like whether they wanted just like the brand and the URL or whether they actually wanted any of the content. Because it's like if you look at like what UGO does and just the number of sites they have and just kind of the way they run all that stuff, it's a little weird. You can't really tell kind of where they're coming from, like on a content perspective. Like it's just strange. Well, so. Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect.
I mean, I think the thing people tend to forget just from the outside is that the stuff that we do, it's a business. Like, companies are interested in making money. And, for whatever reason, UGO or Hearst, whatever, didn't see any real super money-making opportunities to keep One Up the way that it is.
Right.
And, it's a shame, but, I can't really fault them in some sense because, yeah, they want to make money. They want to make a good investment, and they want to play up, their pre-existing brands in conjunction with One Up. So,
and it's kind of the reason why we haven't run out and hired everyone like everyone seems to think that we're going to one of these days.
Yeah, let's clear the air on that. Hey, we're not going to do that.
We can't do that.
We like a lot of those guys. There's a ton of incredible talent that got let go during all of this, but the reason that we can operate the way we do is because we're a very small group of people.
Yeah.
With low overhead. Low overhead is key. I think that's kind of been one of the apparent things of all this stuff that all the Ziff stuff happening is that that was a pretty high overhead operation.
And especially Ziff has been in debt. They've been, as I understand it, like shopping that stuff around for like a really long time,
like years,
and just like. For the longest time, they were unwilling to separate EGM from One Up, and that was kind of the stumbling block for a lot of these buys. So the minute they said, okay, I was like, all right, good, done, get out. Like, yeah, so...
Yeah, I mean, especially, after the bankruptcy restructuring or whatever and all that stuff, I mean, they were even more keen on just offloading, I think, One Up as soon as possible. And, I think there's some truth. I don't know if you guys saw Sam Kennedy's blog, or just some other comments that are out there saying that, if UGO didn't buy One Up, then One Up would have ceased to exist as a whole anyway.
Right.
So, which is entirely possible. It's entirely true that, if this didn't happen, then the entirety of the 1UP staff would have been laid off completely. So who knows?
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely tough times across the internet and just in video games in general.
They call it a recession.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Economic downturn.
Sure. Yeah.
Our current economic situation, as I like to call it.
Call it that. But
it's got more words in it.
The inauguration's like next week? So as soon as that happens, hey,
change is coming.
Money everywhere.
Party next Tuesday.